Well, hello. Welcome to the Captain's Cast. I am, of course, your host, Captain Garrett of the Soars and Starships channel. We're talking about How to Train Your Dragon. I've seen it, and it was marvelous. It was marvelous. And we're going to talk about Superman. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Is it going to be extremely mid? I consider the latter the least desirable outcome. I would prefer it to be terrible, or I really wouldn't prefer it to be terrible. I prefer it to be excellent. I want it to be a 10 out of 10. But who can tell? They did release the newest trailer, and I don't know. It's underwhelming, to say the least. So we're going to talk about that. There's a couple of really interesting videos in the stack of stuff. We also have Dakota Johnson calls out Hollywood. Oh, that's a great article. That is a great article. We're going to talk about that. We have Ironheart drama. They admitted The Last of Us Season 2 sucks. So we're going to talk about that too. So we got lots on tap for the stack of stuff. Lieutenant Producer, help me organize here. Yes, we want to make sure I have the chat up and ready to go. And a happy Father's Day. A happy Father's Day to all. Just double checking that all systems are go. Yes, we are good to go. Alrighty, so we're going to dive into, How to Train Your Dragon is interesting. I saw this film a couple of years ago. I can't remember exactly when, and it was totally on a lark. I saw the original animated film just splash across my page on Netflix or something, and I decided to watch it. And I kind of grew out of these 3D animated films. I kind of got to the point where I'm like, not really into those anymore. Every once in a while, one can pull me in. So I watched this movie, and I could not believe how good it was. A few years go by, and I've sort of forgotten about it, and the new live-action remake comes out, and it's kind of an eye roll, right? Because Disney has really beaten us down with these soulless live-action remakes, these sort of cash grab films. So my thought is, well, this is probably going to be the same thing. This is probably going to be the exact same thing. But I wanted to evaluate both the live-action and the animated film. So I watched the animated film night before last, and once again, it's been a few years since I've seen it. I was like, this is such a good movie. It's so good. It's practically a flawless movie. It is a flawless story. And I'm probably going to share with you the Blake Snyder beat sheet on this as well, because it's super interesting to kind of categorize this film. It hits every important beat that you need to hit to have a really good film. So we're going to talk about that. Now, the question is the live action as good? Is it as good or better? That is a good question. We're going to talk about that. Universal's in the chat, says, greetings and salutations, here for a short time, not a long time. Well, thanks for stopping by, Universal. Much appreciated. Let me see if I can find this. Let me see if I can find the beat sheet. I've got it in here somewhere. There it is. Yes. The question is, can I share it with OBS? That is the question. Probably not. So I'm going to do it this way. Blake Snyder beat sheet. See if I can find it here. This will do. All right. Save that, Mr. Producer. We need the other browser. Yes, we do. I was running late today. I probably should have pushed it off till 12:30, but I figured we'll just strive for on time. Okay, so there's the beat sheet. We're going to do that, and then we're going to categorize the film. So in the Save the Cat formula, which if you don't know, this is a book written by Blake Snyder, who is a screenwriter, and it basically breaks down the exact story beats that make a successful story. Now, he specifically wrote it for films. However, it's been expanded and adapted for novels, TV shows, TV episodes, etc. And it basically lets you look under the hood of a functional story, and it shows you the Swiss watch perfection of all the little mechanisms ticking away at it, which is why I'm a great fan of it, because it's not that you should put your creative process on rails per se, if you're a writer, for example. It's more accurate to say that when you get into the process of writing and you're trying to make sure that your story is hitting all the notes it needs to hit, this is a framework for helping you see what maybe you're missing, what maybe you need to add, or what maybe you need to focus on, right? So that's the basic idea behind it. Now, let me get my browser share here. All right, share screen, Mr. Producer. We need this browser. There we go. Okay, so this is the Blake Snyder Save the Cat beat sheet. So every film basically has all of these notes, and they're very important to the story. Opening image, theme stated, catalyst, etc. I think one of the things that makes How to Save Your Dragon such a great film is it hits every single one of these absolutely perfectly. And in the Blake Snyder framework, there are 10 genres for films. They are not the traditional genres. I'll get the list for you. So the 10 genres are, in no particular order, monster in the house, which this is most horror films. Golden Fleece story, this would be Raiders of the Lost Ark. Lord of the Rings, this is basically a team on a quest. Out of the Bottle, which would be something like Bruce Almighty, or Aladdin, which is obviously the most obvious example, in which a character has a wish. Liar, Liar is another example. A character has a wish or a curse that is unleashed in their life. Dude with a Problem. This would be Die Hard. This would be Twister. That sort. Yes, I would say Twister is Dude with a Problem. Rites of Passage, which is basically a film about growing up or getting old or, going through a divorce. It's basically films about the kind of dramatic chapters of the human journey. Buddy Love, which is basically every buddy cop movie you've ever seen. Why Done It, which is essentially your mystery, trying to track down a killer, for example. The Fool Triumphant, this would be like Forrest Gump, is a great example of this. Or Happy Gilmore, The Water Boy. A lot of Adam Sandler films are Fool Triumphant tales. Institutionalized. Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is an institutionalized story. Or The Godfather also. It's basically about groups, families, and institutions, and the characters that are caught up in the middle. And then finally, superhero, which does not have to literally mean a comic book superhero. This is basically any character that is extraordinary, that is so extraordinary that they become somewhat difficult to relate to. So, for example, Gladiator, Maximus Decimus Meridius. That is a superhero story. Now, which of these is How to Train Your Dragon? Well, it's a buddy love story. And it is a brilliant one. It's one of the best. It's probably, like, if you want, like, my number one example of a good buddy love story, probably I would say How to Train Your Dragon is one of the best I've ever seen. And here are the elements of a buddy love story. The genre in which transformation is found through someone else. Buddy love can have many subgenres: pet love, epic love, forbidden love, professional love. But all of them share an incomplete hero, in this case Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon, but also Toothless, the dragon, is another incomplete hero. A counterpart. So specifically in How to Train Your Dragon, the incomplete hero is Hiccup. The counterpart is Toothless the dragon, who is the key to completion, and a complication. That is a misunderstanding, a personal or ethical viewpoint, an epic event, or a disapproving society. So examples of this would be Gone with the Wind, The Black Stallion, Closer, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Lethal Weapon, The Blind Side, Brokeback Mountain, Titanic, Avatar, Before Sunrise, The Reader, and Frozen. All examples of buddy love. Now, How to Train Your Dragon falls into this perfectly because Hiccup is supposed to be a dragon killer. Toothless is meant to be his enemy, and in fact begins as his enemy. And so when they actually form a partnership, which then becomes a friendship, which then becomes a best friendship, right? They then come up against the complication, which is that Hiccup must help destroy the dragons and then must also help his father destroy the dragons, aka a disapproving society, which does not accept their friendship. So I went to see this movie, and I can just tell you, it made me happy. It just made me happy. It made me happy to watch it. And that's what films are supposed to do. So I'm going to be doing a full review on my channel. I'm going to be doing that on the Captain's Ready Room this week. Probably not tomorrow, maybe the next day. And I will give you my full review then. So if you are a member of the channel, you can watch that directly. Now, let me drop a link in the Discord. If you want to join our Discord, the link is in the description. What's next in the stack of stuff, Mr. Producer? Yes. So there is a new Superman trailer, which I have watched. We could do that one. What should we do next, Miss? Yeah, I'm going to do, you know what? I'm going to do the Ironheart trailer. We might be doing a short Captain's Cast today. We might be doing a short one just because I definitely have things to get to, so we might just be doing a speed run of the Captain's Cast today. Load up this trailer. I have not seen this. I have not seen the latest Ironheart trailer, and look, I'm probably not even going to review it. I don't see the point. It's not even gonna. No one's really interested in this, but it is valuable as a lolcow of the internet, and that I'm here for. Share screen, Mr. Producer. All right, let's see what fresh hell this is. Wait, hang on. We need sound first. There we go. Roll tape.
My stepdad used to say the best way to know a thing.
Thanks, Universal. Happy Father's Day to your dad. I appreciate it, Universal. Thank you. And to you and yours.
Dad! So take it apart. Put it back together. And you can see what it's really made of.
You should take your dad's advice. Break yourself down. See what you're made of.
Here goes nothing.
Tom is in the chat. Ahoy, Tom! You decided to take a break from lurking. Well, hello. Yeah, you know, I have a very kind of apathetic reaction to this trailer at the moment. I'll tell you, I think the number one problem with this character is it is so unearned. Everything about this character is so unearned. Nobody asked for this character. Nobody's interested in this character. This is not a character that has achieved any traction like the last 5, 6, 7 oddball characters they've tried to introduce. Rather than just give us the core Avengers, they keep giving us characters that nobody asked for. So that's number one. But we'll see. I mean,
If I'm gonna protect people, I gotta start thinking outside the box.
Out of all the things you could have built, with that big brain of yours, why this?
Because I have to.
Might be a hero in there after all.
the MCU is so over. It's over. It's over, folks. You know what? There's nothing left to see here. I really am so tired of the magical bullshit in the later chapters of the MCU. I'm so tired of all the multiverses, all of the time variance authorities, the time shredders, all of the lazy magic, the nanites. I'm just so fucking tired of all that garbage. And this, to me, is just more of all that garbage. Oh, look, she just magicked up this whole... She just magicked up an iron suit. It's so easy to forget what made the first. Is there a last little clip on this? There's more on this. Just pray.
Riri, time to wake up, love. What are you?
Your greatest creation yet.
Who the hell else would it be, bitch?
I can't believe I almost missed that. Jesus. Oh my God. The first Iron Man film. Okay, I was very excited for the first Iron Man film because at the time, Iron Man was not like a super popular character. I mean, he was popular. He was kind of a team up character. So the number one character for me was then and is now and ever shall be Spider-Man. That would be Peter Parker, Spider-Man. That is my favorite comic book superhero. And at the time, I knew of all the other Marvel characters mostly from Spider-Man team-ups, because Spider-Man would team up with all the other Marvel heroes on occasion. Captain America, the Hulk, Wolverine, etc., Ghost Rider, all of them, right? And one of my favorite team-ups was when Spider-Man would team up with Iron Man, which got me interested in Iron Man. So I started reading some of the Iron Man comics, and I thought, I like this character a lot because unlike most of the other Marvel heroes, he doesn't have any superpowers. His superpower is this invincible suit that he's invented. But underneath it, he's just a man, but outside, he's like the Superman, almost, of the Marvel universe, but by just the sheer industrial will, right, of inventing this machine. I just thought that was super cool. But I felt he was somewhat of an overlooked character, and he was at times in the comics very OP. He could kind of do sort of anything, like Superman in many ways. He had technologies. Really, the Fantastic Four is even more so that way. So I was delighted when they announced they're making an Iron Man movie, and the Iron Man character looked like the comic book character. I, at first, did not like the casting of Robert Downey Jr. At the time, I thought Jim Caviezel would be like a really good casting for that, because he would kind of be that. He looked like Tony Stark in the comics, and he could be a kind of brooding billionaire. Because in the comics, Tony Stark is a lot more, he's closer to the personality of Bruce Wayne than he is to the personality of Robert Downey Jr. In the comics I read, anyway. He was a little more serious. So when the film came out, and we had just had the Christopher Nolan film, Batman Begins, where we've seen this kind of brooding Bruce Wayne who hates it. He doesn't care about his wealth. He's not interested in it at all. He's just obsessed with this super serious quest of avenging his parents, which is all good, and I love all that. But it would have been, you would have been missing out if you got the same thing with Tony Stark. What was so great about Tony Stark is that he loves his wealth. He loves hot rods. He loves cars. He's funny. He's clever. And he loves being a billionaire playboy and inventor. That's like, he loves his life. He is totally that. Tony Stark is as much Iron Man as Tony Stark. Unlike Bruce Wayne, where Bruce Wayne is just the mask and Batman is sort of this dark, true identity, right? So that was the first thing I found great about the film. He's also kind of an arrogant character who is humbled when he's essentially hoisted on his own petard. His own weapons are used against him, and this clues him in that he's allowed something bad to grow in the world. So then the film proceeds to show him inventing the Iron Man suit. Everything he does in his workshop, from the cave to the workshop, all the way to the end of the movie when he's fine-tuning it, every stage of that felt real. It felt earned. It felt just this side of plausible. You could almost believe. I remember looking up articles after I saw the first Iron Man film. I'm like, what would it take for the Iron Man suit to be real? What would you really need? And I went down this rabbit hole of just reading all kinds of posts by actual physicists and engineers about how plausible or not plausible the Iron Man suit is, and just on and on about it. And the interesting thing was, the most implausible thing about the Iron Man suit was the amount of energy it would need to achieve the thrust he would need to fly, right? Which, of course, is explained in the film as the arc reactor. He creates this miniaturized fusion reactor, and that's what powers his suit. But essentially, that's the number one obstacle to that suit being reality, is how much energy it would take to power it, right? My point is, if the film had not presented an incredibly grounded, clever, and persuasive visualization of how this character was possible, I would not have been so intrigued by the idea of, could this be achieved in real life? Now, we have nanites. I can promise you, I am not going to the internet and looking up articles on, gee, how possible would it be for nanites to make masks appear on faces? Because I don't care. And this is the problem. This is the problem with Ironheart. This is the problem with She-Hulk. This is the problem with Loki and the TVA. This is the problem with all of these things. They're nonsense. They're drivel. And I just don't care. I just don't care at all. There was so much clever storytelling in those first 3 phases of the MCU. There was such clever, grounded storytelling. As grounded as it can be in a superhero context. Like, one of the coolest things about the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy was when Bruce Wayne is working with Lucius Fox to figure out all of his tech. And he says, I need a lightweight fabric so that I don't fall. That's basically, so I'm not, because the whole reason he needed it, because he tried to jump across a rooftop and he nearly got killed. So he's like, how do I solve that problem? And then you have this awesome scene where Lucius Fox is showing him how you've got this lightweight fabric, you run a current through it, it becomes rigid, now it's bat wings. Oh, that's cool. That is really, really cool because it makes it grounded and plausible. So, yeah, Riri Williams, I got no time for that. Fu Man Blue is in the chat. Says, hail! I make way, I'm coming aboard. Maybe the serious Tony from the comics is what made it a B-tier hero in that medium. Junior took him to an S-tier. Ahoy, Fu Man Blue. And yes, I think you're right about that. I saw the first Iron Man, and I was sort of against the idea of Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. The film completely changed my mind. I was like, that was brilliant. That was such a great portrayal of the character. It was so different than a kind of Bruce Wayne character, or even like Green Arrow, who's kind of the same character. He's also kind of a Bruce Wayne. That was the coolest take on the kind of billionaire superhero really ever. He owned that part. He made it what it was. So I 100% give him credit for that. So, okay, so we saw the Ironheart trailer. Now, for my own amusement, I want to watch Jeremy, a.k.a. D-Day Cobra from Geeks and Gamers, react to this because I haven't seen this video and I bookmarked it. I want to see what he thinks of this trailer. So I'm going to react to him reacting to the trailer.
But it's easy to forget that with the Fantastic Four coming up in a little bit over a month for Marvel after the massive failures they've seen already this year between Captain America, Brave New World, Daredevil, Born Again flopping on streaming, and then, of course, the Thunderbolts being a failure. With all the marketing and stuff we're hearing for Fantastic Four, it's easy to forget and hard to remember that Ironheart is still set to release. In just 2 weeks from today, Ironheart is coming out. And overall, it's probably going to be swamped by Fantastic Four, news about Fantastic Four and stuff like that. And they took them forever to put a trailer out. It wasn't until like a month before this thing came out that they put out the first trailer. Budo, this was shot. Right. This series was filmed and got completed filming in 2022. It was supposed to...
That was a total clickbait because it was Jeremy. It was Jeremy in the thumbnail. But he's not reacting to this. Whatever. Let's continue, Mr. Producer.
To come out in 2023. They delayed it. They've re-edited the shit out of it. Ooh, look at that. It's almost close. Not ratioed. Hold on. Let's do a refresh, though. Let's see if we can get it.
There it is. 50-50.
Equal parts. 38,000 up to 38,000 down.
Was this filmed side by side with Black Panther 2 or immediately after? Because Black Panther 2 was 2022, correct?
It was probably filmed after that, like the actual filming for it, because I imagine Wakanda Forever released or got done filming probably the year prior, and they were editing, doing post-production and stuff. But yeah, 2023 is when this like wrapped filming, and it was supposed to come out fairly immediately after that, you know? You know, when you introduce the character in Wakanda Forever for really no reason other than the fact that she's black and you think the black movie might be a good place to introduce the black character. That's why she was in it.
And wasn't she a reshoot insert as well?
I don't know if there's any validity to that.
Yeah, I just confirmed it's ratioed. It is ratioed.
Like when did they decide to include her? I'm not sure.
You just say the best way to know a thing
My stepdad.
is to take it apart. Put it back together. And you can see what it's really made of.
You should take your dad's advice. Break yourself down. See what you're made of.
Here goes nothing.
You know, the interesting thing about this trailer, it is all focused on her. It is all focused on who she is and what she's going to do and who she's going to be. And this is the major disconnect with modern superhero films, is they have lost the connection with why we like comic book characters in the first place. In fact, that reminds me. In fact, I'm going to play it after this. Gary over at Nerdrotic had a brilliant statement about Doctor Who. It was on his video about the fall of Doctor Who, and I forgot to bookmark this, but I kind of know where it is in the video. I can find it for you. He makes this statement about what Doctor Who meant to people. And it holds true for comic book characters like Spider-Man and Superman. It holds true for Star Trek. It holds true for so many, like Lord of the Rings, so many, nerdy genre type fictional stories, fantasy, science fiction, etc. It's so brilliant. And it perfectly points out this disconnect that I'm bringing up here. The disconnect is superheroes do what they do for others. They sacrifice of themselves for others. Their reasons can often vary, but when we're talking about a superhero, it's usually because they have some kind of selfless impulse. They want that something went wrong in the world and they want to set it right, or they have a desire to protect the innocent, right? In the case of Peter Parker, his Uncle Ben was killed by a robber that he let go. And he's, on one level, he's making amends for that. He's trying to prevent that from happening to another family. He's trying to prevent that from happening again. Bruce Wayne, his parents were killed in the street by criminals. He's trying to spare the city the fate of other innocent people having that happen to them. Superman was raised on a farm in which he was taught to be good to others and kind to others and stand up for justice. And so he does what he does because of who he is, because he believes in serving others. I mean, that's really what it's about. Superheroes are superheroes because they are not, it's not because they are powerful. It's not because they are famous. It's not because they are cool. It's because they are servants. They have chosen to serve humanity. They have chosen to serve others. They've chosen to serve a higher purpose. And in fact, it's actually the source of most of the drama with superheroes, is that their needs take a back seat. Peter Parker is always broke. He's always having Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy break up with him because he missed some important event, because he was out saving lives and he can't tell them the truth about it. His dual identity costs him. Bruce Wayne forfeits ever having children of his own or a meaningful relationship because the only thing he does is devote every day and every night to saving Gotham City. In other words, these heroes sacrifice of themselves for others. Their needs are secondary, if they're even considered. So, but what is the modern superhero? The modern superhero is the perfect exemplar of modern, narcissistic, often wacko leftist thinking, which is, it's all about me, it's all about my affirmation, it's all about my dreams and everything I want. I swear, basically, they've turned superheroes into fucking TikTok influencers. That's what they are now. They're TikTok influencers, and they just want clicks. And it makes me sick.
You recognize this guy, Beardo?
Yeah, that's wannabe Han Solo.
It's Han Solo.
Yeah.
Really? I did not notice
4
that.
months, both Han Solos have made appearances in the MCU. You got Harrison Ford and Captain America Brave New World, and now you got Alden Ehrenreich. I believe that's his name.
As a supporting character in a shitty Disney Plus TV show. How far he's fallen. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, well, Solo sucked, so.
Yeah.
He was.
I don't even recognize the guy. He doesn't even look like the same actor. Fu Man Blue says, My real dad told me, yeah, you can learn a lot about a thing by taking it apart, but leave the telephones and radios alone. I was very curious, yes. Superheroes do what they do because if you can save someone and don't, it eats at you in ways that can be harder to deal with than if you'd killed them yourself. Exactly. If they allow something terrible to happen, it's on them. And that's what defines the superhero, truly. That's what defines the superhero.
Also in Cocaine Bear. Don't forget that.
He's a good actor, though. He is a good actor.
If I'm gonna protect people, I gotta start thinking outside the box.
Out of all the things you could have built, with that big brain of yours, why this?
Because I have to.
Might be a hero in there after all.
Riri, time to wake up, love. What are you? Your greatest creation yet. Who the hell else would it be, bitch?
Oh, great. Here we go. Fuck me, dude. Fuck.
They just couldn't get out of there without something super cringe, you know?
Something super cringe and, dare I say, super ghetto, dude. Like, what? Like, why do you got to do that? Why? And I seen this on Twitter. I haven't watched the trailer. This was the first time I've seen the second trailer. But they're going to integrate her Iron Man suit with magic. So what? She can fight Mephisto, who's going to be Sacha Baron Cohen playing Mephisto.
Is that what that is? So that's what so all the little red light blinky things. That's all magic that's oh my god. It's even worse than I thought.
Yeah.
They can't help themselves, but it's like, okay, we're going to take it's the same thing they did with Miles Morales, right? Where you get a character, an already pre-existing character, you make them diverse, but then you give them some supernatural fucking ability, like how Miles has his electric venom shock powers. She's going to have Iron Man suit, but with magic.
Ugh.
Just to make her...
Ugh. It's gonna be such garbage. Now let me find the Nerdrotic video for you, because I want to play what he said at the end of his Doctor Who video. It was so good. There it is. All right, share screen, Lieutenant Producer. So the video is excellent. It's like 30 minutes. It goes through every episode of the latest Doctor Who if you're interested. But it's what he says at the end that was really powerful. Let me see if I can find it.
To our favorite show. And I'll leave you with this brilliant post from Chat Noir that I believe sums up what the majority of the fandom is feeling right now. Russell T. Davies, I say this to you because obviously you don't know. Doctor Who was more than a show. Many of us got bullied for loving it, you know. Many of us didn't fit in. No, we were not gay. We were not in wrong bodies, but we were shy, lonely, abused, on the outside of everything, sad, but we were included there, accepted. Every age, race, class, creed, outlook, every human being was loved by Doctor Who. That was the point. It wasn't a little sexuality and gender club with racism sprinkled over it. You took something precious as the true meaning of inclusive, something rare, truly rare, and you made it ugly and broken and false.
The true meaning of inclusive. That is such a powerful phrase.
The true meaning of inclusive, something rare, truly rare, and you made it ugly and broken and false. You excluded those of us who came to it for shelter as kids. That's unforgivable. The world is better than sex and gender and race. This is a humanities world. Put the flags down. Look at the lonely old person, that awkward young person, and bring them a hero. You took them from all of us. But hey, look at the bright side. Doctor Who had a pretty good run. Over 60 years with a little break, and hell, over 50 of it was good. So whether you want to end it with the 7th Doctor walking off the show with Ace, or the 50th anniversary, or Peter Capaldi saying,
Doctor, I
let you go.
Whatever your choice is, we all know it won't be here. To me, Doctor Who's been dead since the Timeless Children because there's no coming back from that. But to all my fellow Whovians out there, the ones who don't like me, the ones who have subscribed and supported the channel, thank you very much. And to the vast majority of you out there who don't know who the hell I am truly sorry this happened. You deserve better. See you in the next one. Sad what the BBC.
That is so brilliantly put. And actually, he was quoting someone else there. I'm going to get who he was quoting. And I'm going to play that one more time. But what struck me about that is it so perfectly articulated what was so special. In my case, it wasn't Doctor Who. It was Star Trek: The Next Generation. It was the fact that Captain Jean-Luc Picard, the crew of the USS Enterprise, the Federation more broadly, the humanity of the future, valued all beings and stood for all beings. And I think that was such a powerful and unique idea in science fiction that, I mean, unique, it obviously wasn't that unique because that idea is embodied in Doctor Who, but it's rare, perhaps, is more accurate to say. The idea that every life has value. You know, there's that, I wonder if I could find that. I'll just take like 20 seconds to see if I can locate this. I mean, my feed is always filled with Star Trek clips all the time, so if I can't locate it, I'm going to be very disappointed.
All vessels report ready.
Let's see if Tom has done his part. Janeway to the fleet.
No, that's not the one. Well, anyway, there's the episode of Star Trek Voyager in which Anorax has this ship that can erase things from time, and he's trying to erase enough things from time to reset the timeline to get to restore all that was lost. He has to erase beings from existence, and Chakotay, who at first thinks he's misguided, but that he was a more or less decent man just trying to put things right, and he's trying to help him. He eventually arrives at the conclusion the guy's crazy, he's a madman, and he just doesn't get it. And he gets in this argument. Chakotay gets in this argument with Anorax, and Anorax is saying, you know, listen, I'm trying to restore all of time to its proper origins. You know, a few lives lost is an insignificant price to pay. And Chakotay says, every life is significant. Every species is significant. A single life is significant. And I always loved that quote because it illustrated to me what was so powerful about the ideas in Star Trek. You know, Picard is often in situations, Captain James T. Kirk is often in situations where he's arguing on behalf of others and their rights. And that's the point, is it's not just the alphabet mafia that have a claim to being outsiders and victims. It's not just people who claim that they are victims of racism that have a claim to being mistreated by society. Every human being endures unfairness in life. Every human being knows the pain of loneliness or the pain of loss. And the point is that Star Trek in its original days and Doctor Who and other properties like that were for everyone. They were for everyone who ever felt that feeling. And that's what's so powerful about that idea. And that is why the narcissism of modern identity politics is such a cancer, because it has decided that only certain people get to lay claim to pain. Only certain people get to lay claim to justifiable anger. only certain people in society deserve a petition for justice, when the reality is every human being is important and worthy of dignity. That is the message of science fiction that is so powerful, and that is at least the science fiction I like. And it was a great reminder for me as a creative as well, because it reminded me why I started this channel and why I write stories. I write them for those same objectives, to create a place that belongs to everyone. You know, the first 3 phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe were for everyone. They were for everyone. They weren't just for a bunch of fake, phony representation. They were for everyone. And they brought everyone together. Everyone was welcome to sit in a Avengers movie and have a great time and share theories and predictions for what was going to happen next. What was it going to be like when Star-Lord met Tony Stark? What was that going to be like? That was the kind of conversation that we used to have. I'm going to back this up just a little bit more because he said something else, I think. We'll see if I can find it, but I want to run this one more time.
Which is now going to be no more for communist lesbian space witches, or Star Trek with crying and singing Klingons, or shipping Galadriel and Sauron and Lord of the Rings.
God.
And in particular within Doctor Who, which used to be a show for everyone. These were all things that appealed to people who felt like outsiders, which is not the domain of the alphabet community or any other community. It's a human condition, and when Doctor Who played to that, it was at its best. And
exactly. It's the human condition. It's the human condition. Why do I consider Kurtzman's Star Trek not real Star Trek? This is the dividing line precisely. Kurtzman's Star Trek is for a small, select group of marginalized identity politics communities. Original Star Trek was about humanity. It was for all humans. It acknowledged the humanness of all people. There's a great point that Nerdrotic makes. He points out that in an early iteration of Doctor Who, there is a mass murdering species. I think they're called the Daleks. They're an enemy species called the Daleks, and they're generally considered evil. And one of the early doctors has an opportunity to wipe them out. And he agonizes over the decision because he's basically saying, like, yes, they've done evil things, but at the end of the day, I would be no better than them if I wiped them out because I would be committing an act of genocide. And it gives him pause, right? It reminded me also of the episode I, Borg in Star Trek The Next Generation, in which Jean-Luc Picard has an opportunity to sabotage the Borg and essentially, he believes at least, wipe them out permanently. And he ultimately chooses not to because of the restored humanity of the Borg drone Hugh, and it convinces him that he doesn't have the right to annihilate an entire species. And the reason that's so important is that it acknowledges that that the beingness of every entity at some level has value. Identity politics recognizes only its pet categories as having value. Everyone else is an oppressor and an enemy, not deserving of humanity, not deserving of any consideration, and therefore they have permission to destroy them. And honestly, if you ask me, that's the default instinct of humanity. Once I've decided someone or something is my enemy, I have permission to destroy it. This is what How to Train Your Dragon is about. It's about the idea that once Hiccup sees in Toothless the beingness of Toothless, once he sees that Toothless is just as frightened as he is, he suddenly forms a connection. Toothless is more than just an enemy he has permission and, in fact, encouragement to destroy. He is now a being whose life is in his hands. And he must convince the rest of the Vikings to see what he sees. That's what the characters of Doctor Who and Captain Picard and Captain Kirk, Sisko, Janeway, Jonathan Archer, all were encouraging in their stories, is seeing the humanness in even the worst of our enemies. One of the great episodes of Deep Space Nine is the episode Waltz, in which Sisko is trapped in a cave with the evil Gul Dukat, the Cardassian warlord that's been his nemesis throughout the whole series. Before they're trapped in that cave, though, Dukat is being held prisoner aboard a Federation ship on his way to his trial for war crimes, and Sisko is talking to him while he's in his cell, and he offers his condolences to Dukat for the death of his daughter. And Dukat says, even though they're enemies, he says, I appreciate that you always showed kindness to my daughter. And my point in bringing that up is that Sisko, as much as he does not excuse the crimes of Gul Dukat, he still understands that there is an element of, for lack of a better term, humanity, I suppose, beingness, right? And he is living up to his ideals as a Starfleet captain of treating justly even his enemies that are his prisoners. And I think that's such an important distinction. So one more time, roll tape.
Ending like this, and believe me, it's over, whether they like it or not, doesn't make me happy. Doesn't make me satisfied. I don't feel vindicated in any way, shape, or form. It's sad what the BBC has done to our favorite
Ditto Star Trek. Ditto Star Wars
show. And I'll leave you with this brilliant post from Chat Noir that I believe.
So it's from Chat Noir on X.
Sums up what the majority of the fandom is feeling right now. Russell T. Davies, I say this to you because obviously you don't know. Doctor Who was more than a show. Many of us got bullied for loving it, Many of us didn't fit in. No, we were not gay. We were not in wrong bodies, but we were shy, lonely, abused, on the outside of everything, sad, but we were included there, accepted. Every age, race, class, creed, outlook, every human being was loved by Doctor Who. That was the point. It wasn't a little sexuality and gender club with racism sprinkled over it. You took something precious as the true meaning of inclusive, something rare, truly rare, and you made it ugly and broken and false. You excluded those of us who came to it for shelter as kids. That's unforgivable. The world is better than sex and gender and race. This is a humanities world. Put the flags down. Look at the lonely old person, that awkward young person, and bring them a hero. You took them from all of us.
So brilliantly stated. So hat tip Chat Noir and Nerdrotic for a really incredible point. Fu Man Blue says, I don't hate the idea of magic and tech merging in isolation, but some would insist that it's actually just tech. I know merging with tech, I don't understand, so I call it magic. The perfect mate from TNG is a good example of the Federation's mindset clashing with traditions from member states. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, I mean, obviously Thor kind of explored that idea of like magic and technology are one and the same to their society. Look, I'm not saying I'm against it. I like the first Doctor Strange movie quite a bit. I'm just saying that it's all blended into a homogenous slop, and that's the problem. I think the real issue is what we have is assembly line cookie cutter corporate algorithm committee creatives who just want a consistent product. They've turned the Kraft burger into a McDonald's burger, and that's what they've done. They basically said, like, every single superhero gets to have a nano mask so that all of our actors get to have the right amount of face time, and we can easily have their mask come on and off in action scenes. And it's ruined everything, because now there's no character with a distinct, unique ability set. They all just have all the abilities of all the other ones. The Captain Mothman is a perfect example. He's got Tony Stark's like wings. He's got Black Panther's, vibranium suit. He's got Steve Rogers' identity and shield. So he's just a mishmash of all these different characters, and it's really you lose the unique talents, the unique skill sets of the individual superhero. Nothing is their own anymore. So to hell with it. It sucks. All right, now let's pivot. I came across this article from Variety. I thought I would read it with you. From Variety, Dakota Johnson says Madam Web flop wasn't my fault. Decisions are made in Hollywood, and I really love this, by people who don't have a creative bone in their body. AKA stupid people that eat glue, is how I like to put it. Let's read the article, shall we, by Zach Sharf. Dakota Johnson recently told the Los Angeles Times on her Materialists press tour that Madam Web flopping with critics and audiences wasn't her fault, and I largely agree. The Sony-backed comic book movie was a notorious punching bag in winter 2024, earning a dismal $43 million at the domestic box office and an 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, to be fair. Of all the harebrained ideas for a superhero movie, I mean, that had to be one of the dumbest. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Craven. Craven was pretty dumb. Morbius. No, I think this is the most harebrained idea for a comic book movie they've ever come up with. It's basically a Spider-Man movie without Spider-Man, featuring a bunch of Spider-Women who aren't Spider-Women, and a clairvoyant who has to fight a super-powered bad guy without superpowers. With the powers of being an EMT that can steal ambulances. Look, I get it. You try things, sometimes they don't work. You think you have a great idea, and audiences reject it, or it is a great idea, but hey, it was in development hell and things went wrong in the production, and it turned into a mess, and there's nothing you could do about it. I get that happens. Creativity is a difficult process. It doesn't always result in instant winners. But how could you not see how stupid of an idea this is? How could you not have seen it? How could you not see what a stupid idea Madam Web was? Which is not Dakota Johnson's fault, of course. Quote, Johnson headlined the film as Cassandra Webb, a paramedic who gains the ability to see the future after a near-death experience. Close quote. They tried to play it a little bit like Final Destination. They tried to make it like Final Destination, but it was just so bad. It was so bad. Okay, anyway, open quote. It wasn't my fault, Johnson said about the movie. There's this thing that happens now where a lot of creative decisions are made by committee. Or they're made by people who don't have a creative bone in their body. It's really hard to make art that way or to make something entertaining that way. And I think, unfortunately, with Madam Web, it started out as something and turned into something else. And I was just sort of along for the ride at that point, but that happens. Bigger budget movies fail all the time. Not that Johnson feels burned by the movie's reception. As she explained, I don't have a Band-Aid over it. There's no part of me that's like, oh, I'll never do that again to anything. I've done even tiny movies that didn't do well. Who cares? You know, hats off to Dakota Johnson. That is a spectacular attitude, which I hope to share someday. So, Captain Salute. You publish a video, it gets 10 views. Who cares? I really wish I could have that attitude. The actor told Bustle last year, a few weeks after Madam Web nosedived in theaters, that films are made by a filmmaker and a team of artists around them. You cannot make art based on numbers and algorithms. My feeling has been, oh my God, she's so right about this. My feeling has been for a long time that audiences are extremely smart and executives have started to believe that they're not. Audiences will always be able to sniff out bullshit. She is just bang on the money. Business and art is such a difficult mix. I have to say, it is the most difficult merging of paradigms. Like you want to create art that sells and that people want to buy and that people want to immerse themselves in, but at the same time, the very nature of art requires you to be liberated from rules and boundaries. It's extremely painful, I find, to try and merge those two worlds. It's extremely difficult because the artistic impulse is free-spirited by nature. That's, by the way, the reason that identity politics is such a freaking cancer to art. What some would term colloquially wokeness. Wokeness is a cancer to art because it specifically is all about purity testing and tone policing, aka putting rules on everything, which is the death of the very concept of artistic creation. Art, by its very definition, must run free. And the business side's job is to provide feedback, refinement, and marketing. So it's very difficult, but the problem is now the corporatization of art has turned it into exactly what she's saying. It's a bunch of committees, algorithms, and identity politics purity tests. Let me read that quote again. Films are made by a filmmaker and a team of artists around them. You cannot make art based on numbers and algorithms. Hello, Disney. My feeling has been for a long time that audiences are extremely smart, and they are, and executives have started to believe that they're not. Audiences will always be able to sniff out bullshit, and boy, do they. And these executives, they never learn. They never learn. Although I will say this, in How to Train Your Dragon, right? There was a lot of diversity. So this is a story about Vikings hunting dragons, and yet we find people of all ethnicities in the film. Well, there's actually a scene in the film in which Stoic, the leader of the Vikings, is walking around a table as he's laying out his plan to destroy the dragons. He's trying to get everyone motivated, and he points out each of the individuals that come from a different tribe, and he basically says, your people came from this part of the world to fight dragons, and your people came all the way from this part of the world to help us fight dragons. We're all in this together. And it perfectly explained why you see in a Viking island why there are different races present there. It was explained in the film, and it made sense. They all are on this mission to fight dragons, and they're working together. That's it. That's all you ever needed to do. That is all you needed to do in Rings of Power. That's all you needed to do in these Disney live-action remakes, is just establish within the lore of the world why we see so many different faces in a place that's based on a European fairy tale in most cases. So the audience knows when they're being bullshitted, and that was a great point. Let me see. Was there anything else I wanted to cover? Yeah, I think that fairly covers it. So anyway, a hat tip and a captain salute to Dakota Johnson, as always. A true professional. Okay, so the new Superman trailer is out. I thought I might play just snippets of it. I might have to cut out this part of the show because they are very... I guess Warner Brothers is very sensitive about their trailers being shown. I cannot figure out if this is going to be a good movie. I really cannot figure it out. I find at times I love the brightness of the colors. I kind of like the more comic booky feel of it. I like that there's a lightness to it. There really is. There is a lightness to these trailers that really fit Superman. Sometimes I kind of am drawn to the idea that you have these quirky characters, and it seems to be about Superman being part of this world that is very full of life, very full of joy and fun. I like a lot of those elements of this. I will say there's a lot of unique elements to this portrayal of Superman. On the other hand, there are these really strange tendencies to constantly show Superman. This is the third trailer. Every single one of these starts with Superman getting beat up. Now, I'm not totally opposed to showing Superman in peril. I think that's important to establish stakes and to make him seem plausible and grounded as a superhero and give him like challenges and a place to go. But why this obsession with constantly showing him getting beat down in every single trailer? There's something strange about that impulse to me.
Superman.
The most powerful.
Now that is cool. That is really cool. Like when these trailers show an image of Superman saving people, they're really, really good. But then...
being on planet Earth. We finally meet. Now,
so far, Nicholas Hoult is a lot better. He is a hell of a lot better than Jesse Eisenberg was as Lex Luthor. So that is encouraging.
now, as planned, I'll destroy you. And of course, that reporter you always do interviews with. Who raised you as a child? I'll kill them too.
I am digging Lex Luthor being bad. He's just a bad guy. And he's kind of a classic bad guy. He's kind of a classic, he's the kind of bad guy that makes it fun. He makes it fun to see him get beat in the end.
No matter what you do to me, Luthor, your plans will...
Just the problem is, though, the special effects, they really don't look that great. There's something so kind of fake and overly CGI about all of this. The camera angles don't look like real camera angles. I have no idea how this is going to come across. And the plot is so bloated with concepts, ideas, and characters. I have no clue whether this is going to be a cohesive story or not. It's hard to tell.
Work.
Wrap it up.
Good luck with that.
That is so... This is like 20 years ago. This is late 90s era CGI to me. This is like a late 90s era movie in terms of CGI quality. How is this possible? This film's budget is astronomical. What? This is what I can't stand about... This is what I cannot understand about this movie. There's not one trailer, there's not one promo that just lands. It's been misstep after misstep after misstep, red flag after red flag. But there's also a lot to like. So I can't call it, folks. I cannot call it.
Make a move, Big Blue.
I love the original music, the kind of remixed original music.
Buckle up.
Now that I love. I love the people cheering for Superman. He's inspiring hope. I think that's all super cool.
They chose him. Let them die. Hey! Quit messing around.
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
That smacks of millennial humor to me. I don't like that.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Can't call it, folks. I cannot call it. I can't tell you whether I think it's going to be good or not. I'm kind of, I'm like 50-50 on this one. And I do hope it's good, though. I really do. Now, we have a report from the angriest man on the internet, Ryan Kennel. Superman is crushing the Fantastic Four. Make sure I'm on the right. Yeah, here we go. Yes. Roll tape, Mr. Producer.
This summer at the box office, we have some big releases coming out, including Marvel and DC, going nearly head-to-head when it comes to Superman and the Fantastic Four. Two movies that are very important for the respective brands, with Marvel just completely floundering the way they have. And this is the last movie that really leads up to Doomsday, which we'll see at the end of next year. They need Fantastic Four to be big. On the other side, Superman, DC has been in hell the past several years. I think only one movie in the last 6 years for DC, since Joker came out in 2019, only one movie has been profitable for them, and that was The Batman. James Gunn coming in there, the first real big thing that is announcing the resetting of the DC universe. So both of these have a lot of invested in them. Both Disney, Warner Brothers, DC, Marvel, a lot invested in this success. Well, which one's going to do better? That's what everybody wants to know. And the other day, Marvel made a very strange move by launching Fantastic Four pre-orders almost 2 months before the movie comes out, before Superman. And Superman comes out.
Well, we've got Fu Man Blue's prediction. He says Superman will be lame. James Gunn can't do anything serious. I mean, that's the concern. That's the concern. But I don't think it doesn't seem to me that the stakes are unserious right now. Like, I think Lex Luthor is playing for keeps, and I'm going to find your parents. I'm going to kill them. Like, that's all pretty high stakes and pretty intense. I'm here for it. Like, that reminds me kind of old school comic book TV shows and movies. Like, that's an old school kind of comic book villain, like circa 80s and 90s era. So I don't know that I share your concern that it's not going to be serious. His humor is in the trailers, all I need to know. I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. Listen, I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. I'm always hoping that they're going to prove me wrong. In a way, I'm often daring them to prove me wrong, as if they could hear me.
Yet Marvel does it way in advance. Very strange, but they got some good headlines out of it. Isn't this fantastic? Marvel's Fantastic Four First Step sold more tickets in its first day than any other film this year. And that was taken by a lot of people and spun into like, oh my God, this is going to be massive. That's huge for this. It's like, really, compared to what? You know, the big movies of this year so far, things like Minecraft, things like Lilo and Stitch. Those movies, those are kids' movies. They're not massive first-day pre-order movies. There's a lot of walk-up sales. It's a lot of families deciding on that weekend to go to something. Whereas the big superhero movies, those are the ones that generate those big first box office, day sales. So I said, this is fucking nothing. And then predictably, we actually get the numbers that come out. Fantastic Four First Steps early tracking to earn 125 to 136 million in its domestic box office weekend. Certainly better than Captain America Brave New World and Thunderbolts, but really nothing special in terms of Marvel debuts. Well, that record did not stand for long because Superman launched yesterday, and it didn't even launch fully. It soft launch. It was just Superman exclusive fan previews on a Tuesday that were exclusive only to Amazon Prime members. And by the way, there's only one showing in a select couple theaters throughout the United States. Right? That's all they opened up yesterday. Yet with that alone, Superman crushed Fantastic Four. And ticketing platform Fandango is already celebrating the summer of #Superman, confirming that Prime Video early screenings pre-sales that kicked off yesterday have beaten Fantastic Four First Steps as the biggest first pre-sale days of 2025 on the platform, despite being available only for Prime members in a limited number of theaters with just one screening each on June 8th at 7 p.m. The general sales for Superman screenings from July 10th onwards kicked off today, and, we'll see how those do. Now, that's why I said and called this bullshit out from the beginning when people were trying to spin this. All these sites crashing, nothing.
Wrangler arrives in the chat with a whole lot of Ola Ahoy Wrangler, and thank you for the $4.20 super chat. Very kind, sir. Captain salute. And yes, Superman early ticket sales just dominating the Fantastic Four. I do think, I sort of thought Fantastic Four had a shot at being good. Everything I've heard, everything I've seen, I can call Fantastic Four. I think it's going to be dog shit. I think it's just going to be crap. I think it's going to be more MCU garbage. That one's pretty easy to predict. Superman, hard to say.
Was crashing. It was all just made up bullshit to generate hype and spin. And the record they broke obviously meant nothing because Superman, not even with a full release, with a very small limited opening, beat them in first day ticket sales. Now, that doesn't mean that Superman's going to be a success. That doesn't mean Fantastic Four is going to be a failure. We have to take all these things into consideration, including the massive budget for Superman and likely for Fantastic Four, and kind of see what happens. But despite what anybody may say about, we're not competing, we hope everybody enjoys, they are 100% competing. Because DC, been in the gutter. Marvel, been in the gutter. They both see this as an opportunity to step out and step up. And of course, they're going to be tracking each other's box office numbers. How could you not be? And despite Fantastic Four releasing early, maybe to try to generate that good word of mouth or good press, did not last long. Superman has kicked off their massive marketing campaign. Okay, new trailers, new spots, new everything, right? For this big 1 month Barbie level marketing blitz that they're going on, which is costing them $200 million, which we'll also have to factor in when it comes to whether this movie is successful or not. All of the money that they spent, not only on the production budget, but also on a rumored $200 million marketing budget. But in terms of first blood, the first victory in this battle over the summer goes to Superman in a kind of easy fashion without even a full ticket launch. They crushed Marvel in Fantastic Four.
You love to see it. You really do. Hat tip the angriest man on the internet, Ryan Kennel, with another trenchant analysis. And I have to say, on one level, I do think that the insane, ludicrous, this is one of the rare occasions where the captain will, place his blessing and his seal of approval on the ludicrous, stupendous amounts of money that they're spending on this Superman film. I actually think this makes sense because Superman is the flagship. Superman is the flagship launch pad for everything else DC wants to do. I think where I get frustrated, it does make sense to make this investment because even if the film just breaks even, which, I mean, that wouldn't be a great result, but I think that would be an acceptable result because your goal here is to launch an entire franchise of films, and you want to have a core character and product that's going to support the success of the others. So I think it makes sense to invest this much in it. I guess where I struggle with this Superman film is how narcissistic and how often wrong-footed James Gunn's promotion of the film has been. And I just think that some of it's too clever by half. I feel like it's too clever by half. It's trying too hard to be quirky and new and interesting. And it's like, I think you should, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe playing it safe is exactly what made Superman Returns fail. They played it very safe with Superman Returns. I would argue the biggest problem with Superman Returns is they tried to have it both ways. They tried to say it was a direct sequel to the Christopher Reeves film, but also it was a remake of the Christopher Reeves film. You can't have both. It either is a remake or it's a sequel. It can't be both. So that was what was frustrating. I think that's what really destroyed one of the things that destroyed Superman Returns. But also, it was a very safe portrayal of Superman. So I suppose I half grudgingly, half admiringly have to give credit to James Gunn for trying something different, trying something that strikes me as unique. I think you probably have to take risks. And he hasn't been insufferable on social media. He hasn't been saying, bullshit stuff like running down the original concept of Superman or bad-mouthing fans. He hasn't been saying things like, always remember, free Palestine. He hasn't been doing any dipshit stuff like that. So I give him credit for that. I mean, one of the things I complain about often on this channel is the algorithm wood chipper, the corporate committee writing. Say one thing for James Gunn, say he has a unique vision. Whether it succeeds or fails is another matter. But I suppose I worry that they are once again placing all this investment in this character while also overstuffing it. And I think that could be the problem. And I hope they have not once again done another Justice League rush job, because that's what they did with Justice League. They rushed it. They tried to speed run the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it was a complete disaster. And I really hope they're not trying that with Superman. I think the real issue here is James Gunn truly focused on the character of Superman or not? I think that for me is the number one question that remains to be answered. I think underpinning all of my concerns, all of my criticisms, all of my skepticism, that is the crucial question. Is James Gunn seriously committed and focused to the to the character of Superman? Specifically, not Hawkgirl, not Crypto the dog, not Mr. Terrific, not the Green Lanterns, not the Suicide Squad, not the Kaiju. Is he focused on Superman? Or is Superman the thing he has to do so he can do what he really wants? And the strange thing is, the more evidence I see that James Gunn is focused on Superman and is committed to getting this right, the more evidence I see that he's not. And so I can't call it. That's really what will decide this. That's what will decide whether this film is a good Superman film or not. Did James Gunn really care about this character, or did he not? That's the question. So if it turns out that James Gunn really was passionate about this character and getting it right, I think it will be a great movie. If it turns out that this was a project, a vanity project he had to get done to do what he really wants to do, aka a stepping stone, it's going to suck. It's going to be a disaster, and the new relaunch of the DCU is going to be dying on the vine. So, Wrangler says, I'd be surprised if Gunn turned in a script without a conclusion to all threads he opens in mind. The question is, can he, an ensemble writer, keep to a main character properly? Well, he's not. He's not keeping to a main character. He's doing an ensemble Superman film. He's doing exactly what he always does. So, that's concerning. However, this is why I can never call it. This is why I can't call it, because on the other hand, he's good at that. He's good at ensemble movies. Guardians of the Galaxy is an exceptional film. It's a 10 out of 10. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is a 10 out of 10 film. He created such a great collection of characters, and they all had meaning and purpose in the story. They were all fun. They all had a kind of grounded, important story within them. Now, I think they got a little more wackadoodle as the series went on, but in that first film, even the silly characters like Rocket Raccoon and Drax the Destroyer, they also had a serious core to them. And so that is the talent that James Gunn has. He's actually pretty good at this. And he does seem to have a vision for it. So it's hard to say. I think that if the most interesting character in this movie to James Gunn is Superman, I think we're in good shape. My fear is that he doesn't consider Superman the most interesting character. And that would be a problem. So so that's Superman's James Gunn. Now that we've talked about that, now we're going to discuss another topic that has been weighing on me, because as you know, I went to see Ballerina, and I was underwhelmed by the film. 5 out of 10, I believe I gave it. A dead mediocre score. Some entertaining action, basically a cliche, forgettable plot. A likable star playing a pointless character is basically what I arrived on. Not a girl boss, but neither was she a convincing protagonist either. 5 out of 5. It's 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. That's basically what it is. It's like for every one thing I liked about the movie, there's another thing I'm like, that sucked. Hey, just because she's not an eye roll doesn't mean she's worth the ticket price. You know what I'm saying? So this brings into question, has the girl boss finally had her day? And that is the subject with which we will concern ourselves after a very short break. Yes, Wrangler, you are right. Critical Drinker did a video. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about. He did 2 videos, actually, on the subject of ballerina specifically and girl bosses more broadly. And I wanted to examine that. But first, shall we check in and see how ballerina's actually doing? I think we will, Mr. Producer. No, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one, Mr. Producer. I need the Screen Rant article. Okay, share screen. All right, hat tip, Screen Rant. Ballerina from the world of John Wick hit major box office milestone and will soon surpass the first John Wick movie in franchise's charts. What a ridiculous puff piece. What a puff piece. She's a girl boss, so they have to frame it in the best possible light. So from the word, I mean, she is a female protagonist, so they have to. I would not define the character as a girl boss. But anyway, from the world of John Wick, Ballerina just crossed a major milestone in the franchise, led by Ana de Armas. The movie follows the assassin Eve Macaro as she attempts to avenge her father's death by killing the cult leader, the Chancellor, Gabriel Byrne. The movie ties directly into the John Wick movies as Keanu Reeves appears as the titular star, supporting Eve in her quest to defeat the cult. Directed by Len Wiseman, Live Free or Die Hard, Ballerina debuted with an underwhelming $24 million at the domestic box office, which is also the second lowest opener in the franchise. According to a report by Variety, Ballerina will drop to 4th place in its second weekend in theaters after earning just $2 million on Friday. It is expected to earn $8.7 million this weekend, which would represent a 64% drop from its debut last week. So this is the second weekend for Ballerina. It's already down 64%, and I am not surprised at all by this. Not surprised at all. This film could have easily just been like an HBO. This was a direct-to-streaming movie is what this was. This was like a direct-to-streaming Netflix or HBO special kind of thing. There's no reason to go to the theater to see this movie. It is cliche. It's hackneyed. It's just more of the same. You've seen so much of all of this, but you've seen it done better in the John Wick films. And this is the problem. Because she's a girl, it's automatically more interesting. That's what these creatives think. They think, oh, we'll just do a less inventive, a less original, a more cliche version of the exact same plot from John Wick 4, and we'll just have it be a girl instead. This is not going to work anymore. It's just not going to work anymore. You've got to bring an actual character and an actual story to the table here. She is a smoke show, though. There is no doubt about that. Ballerina crossing the first John Wick movie is some good news, but it's not necessarily enough to put the spinoff on profitable margins. Ballerina's budget is $90 million, which is not unreasonable, but like it's barely going to break even at $90 million. Yeah, so it's not doing well. Now, here's what they did, okay? They basically said, to frame it as a win, they said, oh, look, it's going to do better than the first John Wick, which only did $43 million. It's probably going to do better than the first John Wick, which was basically a little-known film that became a cult classic, which led to the success of the later entries. Look at this, though. John Wick Chapter 4 did $187 million. So Ballerina is way, way behind. At this stage of the game, if a John Wick entry, so to speak, cannot draw bigger numbers than 41 million, that is not a good sign. I'm just curious if there was anything else in this article. Okay, so that's enough of that. Now that brings me to the critical drinker. Because I haven't seen his review on the movie. I am genuinely curious what his thoughts on this film were, because I can't call it like what he probably thought about it. We're going to watch his video about girl bosses, but first I want to see his review on Ballerina. If he did one. Did he do one? Yeah, he did one. Okay, I haven't seen it yet. So here we go.
The John Wick franchise really
make sure my audio is enabled. Okay, good. Full screen, Mr. Producer.
was one of the best things to happen to action movies in decades, reinvigorating a genre that had become kind of tired and played out, with its inventive and technically impressive single-take combat scenes, and proving that Keanu Reeves was still a viable action star even well into his 50s. But with Keanu bowing out after John Wick 4, for now at least, the race was on to expand the scope of the franchise and find new ways to make money before people forgot about it. The Continental didn't exactly set the world on fire, but here we are with another attempt in the shape of Ballerina, or to give it its full title, From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. Yeah, they really want you to know that this is a John Wick movie, arguably because they know it couldn't stand on its own merits. Kind of like Furiosa now that I think about it. Anyway, the movie...
Yeah, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Hey, I have an idea. How about you make an original character that's actually interesting before simply deciding that we'll just take an existing franchise and put a girl in it? We'll just stick a chick in it. That's all they do. They've done this thousands of times. How many of these?
Stars Ana de Armas as Eve, a young woman who gets inducted into the Rosca Roma clan after her father's murder at the hands of the Cult, a highly dangerous clan who play by no rules except their own. Anyway, she eventually graduates as a ballerina and goes on a bunch of successful missions, but she never forgets the people who murdered her dads. Luckily for her, the Cult decide to come after her instead so that the rest of the plot can happen, which leads her to the...
Yeah, exactly.
Continental, where a former Cult member just so happens to be staying with a little girl that he rescued. Holy shit, that was lucky, wasn't it? Anyway, Eve hooks up with him, but then the Cult attacks them inside the Continental, which I'm pretty sure is a massive breach of the rules that would get the entire organization permanently expelled, but whatever. Naturally, Eve is in the mood for some payback, so she goes to Frank, the weapons dealer, to buy some guns, and he helpfully tells her exactly where the Cult operates from. Wow, this whole investigation thing is super easy, isn't it? Barely an inconvenience, you might say. Eve just kind of walks right into the exact information she needs at the exact time that she needs it. So anyway, she heads to the Cult's base in Austria to murder everyone, which invites a full-scale war between the Cult and the Rosca Roma. I mean, after that shit they pulled at the Continental, I'm pretty sure all the clans should be at war with them by this point, but who cares? The Rosca Roma want to avoid a conflict, so they deploy John motherfucking Wick himself to take Eve out. But can she fight her way through an entire town to take out the Cult leader before John Wick stops her? And will it result in a full-scale war between the different factions? I said before that Ballerina has echoes of Furiosa in the way that it tries to exploit the success of its predecessors because it doesn't have the confidence to stand on its own, but I think the comparisons go even deeper than that. The two movies are stuck in a similar no-win situation, being decent enough action flicks in their own right, but ultimately falling short of their parent movies and destined to be overshadowed by the very franchise they're trying to build themselves on. What I'm really trying to say with all this shite is that Ballerina isn't a bad action movie by any stretch, it just has the rotten luck of having to follow some of the best action films of the past 20 years. The fight scenes are decent, even if they go on a bit too long and get to be a bit samey at times. The plot is simple and serviceable, even if it takes too long to get going and relies a bit too much on convenience to keep moving. On the plus side though, it avoids
cliches.
Most of the convoluted nonsense that bogged down John Wick 3 and 4 and keep things much more streamlined. Eve herself is a sympathetic protagonist with an understandable motivation, but a bit light on personality and without the mystique and dark menace of Wick himself. Ana de Armas was an interesting choice. She feels like she's been a star in waiting for the past decade or so, attractive and talented but never quite able to land that killer role to elevate her to leading lady status. And having seen what she can do in Ballerina, I'm not entirely convinced there's a glittering career in action movies.
So Wrangler says this worries me because my main characters are chicks. So hold that thought, Wrangler, because we're gonna dig through all this. You don't need to be worried about that. The problem is not that they're chicks. The problem is that they're not interesting characters, but the prevailing, ideological bent of Hollywood right now is, girls are in, girls get it. How can I put this? Every single time they present a girl boss, they present her as if this is such a new, refreshing, interesting, novel idea that nobody's ever look, it's a girl instead of a guy, as if to say that this has never been done before. It's been done thousands of times. So that the problem is that they are making a bizarre assumption that just by dint of putting a chick in it, it's now instantly more interesting. It's instantly more unique, when it's exactly the opposite is true. What the focus needs to be on the character. The character. Like, make the character believable and interesting, and you won't have a problem. There's plenty of female-led franchises of books that are really good, that are very popular. Whether or not I'm a fan of them, you've got the Twilight series, you've got the Hunger Games with Katniss Everdeen. Like, there's plenty of room for female characters. The issue is they have to be interesting in their own right. My critique of Eve in Ballerina, she was halfway to a really good character. My critique differs from Critical Drinker a little bit. Yes, she's sympathetic and likable. The main issue I have with her is her backstory, specifically for the John Wick world, is incredibly obvious. It's incredibly the same as everything else they've done. I already suggested my alternative, which would be, rather than have it be that her father wanted her to escape from this cult, have it be that her father was innocent and so was she, and they were targeted either by the cult or the assassins or whatever. But in any case, sort of like the tragedy that brought Bruce Wayne into the role of the Dark Knight, a tragedy brings her into a dark world she was never supposed to be part of. I think that would have made her interesting. I think that would have made her unique. And then lean into the bodyguard, the Kikimora concept, which was much more interesting to me than her going on an assassin revenge quest. So my point is, they failed to give her an identity that's unique and her own, and that's why she's boring as a character. Not because she's a woman. It's because she doesn't have a unique personality and identity. John Wick is not interesting because he's a badass. That's part of it. It helps. That's not why he's an interesting character. He's not interesting because he's a man. He's interesting because of his story. That's why he's interesting. So don't let this discourage you. Rather, let it encourage you to just remember your characters have to be deep, complex. They have to have clear desires and motivations, and let your audience, and your beta readers be a guide to that. Is your character interesting and consistent? So yeah, I love female characters. I do. I love female protagonists. I thought Astrid in How to Train Your Dragon is excellent. She's an excellent female character, and she's a powerful female character, but she does not become a Mary Sue with tons of plot armor. She runs into problems. She faces defeat. She struggles with, and she has things she's good at, and she has things she's not good at, just like Hiccup, right? Which is important. So she's an actual character with a personality. So there's plenty of room for good female characters. Twilight is Star Wars for chicks. I mean, yes, but the point is that the female characters are interesting when they have actual depth and personality. And the reason I bring up the Hunger Games and Twilight is because those were franchises that were... Well, look at the female characters in Harry Potter, like Hermione. They're very popular characters. As long as the characters have depth and interesting stories, people will pick them up.
waiting for her. She's kind of off balance and a bit slow to hit her marks during the fight scenes. It's obvious when the stuntmen are having to hold back and waste time while they wait for her to get ready, and she doesn't look particularly comfortable with the guns either. Keanu Reeves trained with the kind of dedication that would put Navy SEALs to shame, and it showed with every fight scene that he did. Every gun felt more like an extension of his own body than some foreign object he was carrying around. De Armas, on the other hand, looks exactly like what she is, an actress pretending to be an assassin, trying her best to remember the pre-scripted fight choreography and having to rely heavily on stunt doubles to do most of the heavy lifting. She doesn't really have the brooding intensity and intimidation factor that a role like this demands, and I feel like if this movie had been made 10 years ago, Charlize Theron would have been a more natural choice. Also, the movie supposedly makes a big deal out of the fact that she's at a disadvantage in most fights against bigger and stronger enemies, so she has to find smarter and dirtier ways to win.
Right, which they say. And then, and in every scene after that, she mows through the men 5 at a time like it's no big deal.
Fighting like a girl, to quote the movie itself. It's a nice idea in theory, but it never really carries through to the rest of the movie. Eve just goes through the same kind of run, gun, and stab routine as John Wick himself, with no real concession to being smaller and weaker. Also, despite being shot, stabbed, and thrown through about a dozen tables and windows, and having multiple grenades going off right next to her head, she somehow walks away with barely a scratch on her. Yeah, you're not really selling me on the scrappy, determined fighter battling through against all odds here.
You know, that's very true. And it also makes me think of how John Wick, especially in the third film, you see him literally getting tired and slow after how much damage he's endured. Wrangler says, I don't mind when a chick is introduced in a story coming across as a Mary Sue, so long as she ends her story more like John McClane. She has to earn it. How's that for subverting expectations? Well, what I would say is that's not a Mary Sue. That's a well-developed character. A Mary Sue, by definition, is a character that's presented as perfect and having no flaws, and simply being you as the audience are simply told that she's competent and good and awesome without ever having to earn it. So you either are a Mary Sue or a Marty Stu. In the case of a male character of the same, you either are or you're not, and that's the difference.
In the writing business, this is what we call lampshading, calling out an inconsistency in your own script without actually addressing it, as if just waving it off with a single line of dialogue is a substitute for actually fixing the problem. Well, it's not. Ultimately, the best way I can sum up Ballerina is that it's John Wick light. Not quite as visceral, not quite as compelling or unique, and not quite as cool and inventive as the films that it's trying so hard to follow. It's not a terrible movie by any stretch, and there's enough gunplay and mayhem to keep you entertained on a surface level, but if the studio were expecting Eve to take over the mantle of this series, I think they might be in for a disappointment. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
So now I want to take a look at his critique or his review of Girl Bosses and what he where he thinks that's going. Let me grab that one. Okay, here we go.
I did my review of Ballerina a few days ago. The most obvious point of comparison was Furiosa, and it's not hard to see why. Both movies were female-led spin-offs from established male action franchises. Both starred pretty likeable actresses playing well-rounded protagonists. Both came away with solid audience scores and positive...
I think Furiosa was a much better film than Ballerina, personally.
Of critical reviews, there was no backlash, no negativity around them, no controversies or media firestorms, no actors shooting their mouths off.
It's Hollywood, baby.
And yet, both of them flopped at the box office. The question is, why? Well, this is where things get a bit contentious, so pay attention, dear viewer, because we're taking a deep dive into the murky world of film franchises. One of the fundamental problems that both of these films struggled with is that it's always tricky to launch a spin-off from a franchise that's so heavily based around its central character. Franchises like Star Wars or Marvel or Star Trek are bigger than any one character or story, and so they lend themselves much more easily to spin-offs and side projects. It's more about the world than the people in it. Character-based franchises are a completely different story though, because they are the selling point. In this case, both John Wick and Mad Max soon became became bigger and more memorable than the actual movies they were part of. Most people would probably struggle to remember the plots for John Wick 2 and 3, but man, they remember Keanu Reeves was fucking cool, and that's what they really gravitated towards. That right there is what kept them coming back for the next installment. Mad Max Fury Road kinda struggled with this problem because Mel Gibson had aged out of the role while the movies were on hiatus, forcing the studio to bring in a younger Tom Hardy to replace him. They more or less got away with that though, partly because the awesome action scenes compensated for it, but also because there was still some kind of continuity there, even if the actor might have...
Yeah, I will say the action scenes in Mad Max Fury Road are just some of the best ever. They're just incredible. They're some of my favorite action scenes in movie history. They're so damn good. Absolutely glorious to watch. And not quite as good, not quite to that level in Furiosa, but the action scenes in Furiosa were fantastic as well.
Changed, it was still the same character they'd come to know and love over the years. Both Furiosa and Eve from Ballerina didn't have the benefit of all that fan goodwill and attachment. They had to earn it like they were starting from scratch. They weren't piggybacking off the success of their predecessors, they had to stand on their own merits and earn it for themselves. Unfortunately, their studios didn't seem to understand this and budgeted both movies like they were mainline sequels. To put this into context, the original John Wick brought in $86 million worldwide, which isn't exactly blowing the lid off the global box office, but it didn't have to. It only cost $20 million to make, and so that $86 million haul generated a nice little profit for the studio. Ballerina, on the other hand, is projected to make about $100 million worldwide, which would have been great news if the studio had the sense to budget it like the first John Wick. But they didn't. It cost $90 million to make, more than 4 times as much as the first movie, and so it needs to make 4 times more to turn a profit. And clearly, it's not gonna make it. It's the same story with Furiosa. That film brought in $178 million worldwide, which would have been great news if it had cost 40 or 50 million, but it didn't. It cost $168 million. That's insane for a movie with an unproven character from a franchise that always specialised in low-budget action thrillers. My point here is that spin-offs generally don't generate as much interest or as much revenue as the original movies, and if both studios had been realistic about what these films could actually achieve and adjusted their expectations and budgets accordingly, they might have ended up turning a solid profit instead of being depressing flops. Now, that's the business side of the equation, but there's a much bigger problem that's brought down both of these films. A cultural backlash that's been building up for years now and has finally exploded harder than me after a particularly strenuous session with Tatiana. The fact is, audiences today are getting a bit fucking sick of girl boss movies because they've had nothing but girl boss movies shoved down their throats for the past decade or so.
Oh god, War of the Hero was such trash. Oh, it was so bad. Oh, I hate that movie. Oh, War of the Hero. That one was vintage, just fucking vintage girl. But you should be king. You should be the queen. You're the one that saved Helm's Deep, but nobody will remember you. And then she's petting the eagles. She's climbing up into the eagle's nest and she's petting the eagles.
Particular, they're sick of seeing their favourite male-led franchises getting taken over by unlikable, arrogant, abrasive, and infallible feminist power fantasies, usually written...
Infallible feminist power fantasies. Now, that's a great way of articulating what a girl boss is. An infallible feminist power fantasy. And that's really what it is, Wrangler, is as long as you're not portraying an infallible feminist power fantasy, I think you're on the right track.
Written by talentless hacks and embittered activists who they're commanded to like and respect simply because they've been crowbarred in to replace someone far more popular. Fan bases don't work like that. The big pop culture franchises are the most obvious and high-profile examples of this, but the truth is that it's spread to almost all facets of entertainment. Like, how many times have you been told that some old movie or TV show is getting a revival, updated for modern audiences of course, usually followed by sneering think pieces decrying the original as a dated relic of a less enlightened time, and fawning interviews with pretentious actors up on their soapboxes about how excited they are to bring a modern dimension to their formerly outdated characters. How many times have you seen your favourite male heroes brought out of cold storage just so they can be mocked, belittled, outperformed, and ultimately replaced by their idealised, overpowered female superiors? It's all happened so many times now that even the most easygoing, culturally neutral normies are just kind of fucking done with it. It's exhausting and demoralising, and most people just can't handle it anymore. And at worst, a good chunk of audiences are actively rebelling against it. And what's the end result of all this? Well, in blunt terms, the female action star is fucking dead now. Audiences have been burned so many times now that anytime a new female-led movie shows up, they basically roll their eyes and say, "Oh, here we fucking go, another girl boss."
You know what's incredible about it? I think about the 90s. You know, the 90s, as Agent Smith points out in The Matrix, was the pinnacle of our civilization. I think it was the decade where racism and sexism was most behind us. And I remember in the 90s, there were a lot of leading female characters that were in the roles of cops, in the roles of action stars, in the roles of spies. There were a lot of characters like this in the 90s. And women in the 90s in TV shows were often very empowered. They were often in high-powered careers, positions of political power. They could often verbally spar with the men. So in other words, what I'm saying is it's as if women got equality, right, in fiction in the 90s, and instead of them celebrating, it just made them angrier. And they're like, and so then we went through a period of like the 2010s till now where they act as though women have never been anything other than maids and housewives. They've never been, we've never seen a woman other than a maid, a secretary, or a housewife in any TV show. And therefore, this is 2010. We're going to introduce all these stunning and brave female characters. And it's like, it's as if the fact that female action heroes and cops and detectives and spies became popular in the 80s and 90s. It's as if they said, we're going to act as if none of that ever happened, and we're angrier than ever. It's so bizarre. It is so strange. Fu Man Blue says, I just want to go back to the good old days when a woman was written like a man, but without reason or accountability. They are. That's the thing, though. They are. That's the character of Guy Ladriel in The Rings of Power. It's so perfectly... Just picture her doing the thing she's doing. If she were a man, she'd be getting punched in the face, dragged off to the dungeon, beheaded. She'd be in trouble. She'd be in trouble if she were running around mouthing off to foreign kings if she were a male character. But because she is a feminist, infallible power fantasy, she gets away with all that garbage.
We're unwilling to give any female-led action movies a chance now, to the point where actual good and respectful examples like Furiosa and Ballerina all get lumped together and flushed down the same cultural toilet bowl as the watery shite excreted by Disney, Marvel and Amazon. And when I think about it, that really is a shame, because believe it or not, there was once a time when we really did have it all. Go back as recently as the 2000s or even the early 2010s, and we had a whole bunch of established female-led franchises like Resident Evil, Underworld, Tomb Raider, Kill Bill, and The Hunger Games. And you know what? Nobody fucking complained about them then. There were no boycotts or backlashes or cultural warfare raging around them. Nobody cared because they existed alongside male-led franchises instead of trying to replace them. There was enough room for everyone, and there still is today. The problem is that the well has been poisoned to such an extent that it's treated more like a battle to the death that only one side can walk away from, instead of a fun and vibrant genre that encourages new ideas and opportunities. One of the fundamental rules of the universe is that every action has a reaction, and if your action is to spend years shitting on male heroes just to elevate low-quality female replacements, then guess what? The reaction is that audiences will stop watching what you make, whether it's good or bad. The female action star is dead because the girl boss killed it. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Hat Tip Critical Drinker. Another excellent analysis. And that's not all. we're just going to roll straight into the next one, which is Hat Tip Nerdrotic. Hollywood girl bossed too close to the sun. I saved all these because I wanted to just watch all of these, but I thought this is better. I'm going to watch these on the Captain's Cast with my beloved audience.
Nerderotic.com.
Friends, it looks like From the World of John Wick, The Ballerina, that title just rolls off the tongue, is going to be a bomb at the box office, which is interesting because it dropped just a couple of weeks over a year since its spiritual sister flop, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, bombed at the box office. Both were unnecessary.
Yeah, you know, so Fu Man Blue, you're saying like her arm would be like a feather against a swinging axe from a man. So all of these lately, all these films that are trying to portray like female action badasses plausibly, they use these kind of jujitsu moves where it's like that they climb up onto the guy, they wrestle him down from the neck by using all of their body weight against his neck like they're piggybacking. The problem is, like, I've seen TikTok videos where women in real life try to do this kind of stuff to a man, and it doesn't work. It's like basically that there's this great TikTok video of a male bodybuilder, and this one he's got two women basically wrapped around each arm, and he's just lifting them like this. And it's like, I just don't buy it anymore. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have women in crazy martial arts scenes and without it being plausible. Of course, it doesn't have to be plausible completely. It just has to be kind of believable within the movie. Like, of course, the Black Widow couldn't do the things the Black Widow can do in an Avengers movie, but who cares? It's an Avengers movie, and it's believable enough. The problem is that it's getting to be so cliche, the moves that they use all the time. I'm getting to the point where I just can't buy into it. I just can't buy into it anymore.
Spin-offs of male-dominated franchises, and in both cases, these spin-offs were intended to expand the world of franchises that were associated with a specific actor, respectively Keanu Reeves with John Wick and Mel Gibson with Mad Max, and don't worry, we'll get to Fury Road. Both were well received by the audience and critics. Both featured lead actresses that people like. Neither film's cast and creators went out and embarrassed themselves on the red carpet. Both featured cameos from the franchise's titular character. Both look like they could potentially feature insufferable girl bosses, but didn't. And both films were okay. Now, if I was forced to choose, I would take Furiosa, mainly due to George Miller's directing, but Ballerina didn't embarrass itself. And this brings up a much bigger question and conversation. You could throw Thunderbolts in this one too. Why are recent films with female leads that are generally well received underperforming at the box office? And the answer is obvious. Hollywood girl boss too close to the sun. And
yeah, you know, that's a great point about Thunderbolts. As much as I disliked that movie, I liked the characters on a kind of individual level, with the exception of John Walker. I think they got his character totally wrong. But the other characters I mostly liked, and I liked Florence Pugh's character in the movie, and I thought she had a lot of potential. But it is interesting how they keep writing these lazy stories that aren't very good, and they just seem to think that because it's a girl, it's somehow interesting, and it just doesn't work that way.
Aside from LA burning for the second time in 6 months and rioting for the second time in 5 years, this is the topic of conversation. And while I've been talking about this topic on this channel for quite some time, I am far from the first person to bring it up this week, including Deadline. Speaking of Furiosa, she had a similar dilemma in her marketing to ballerinas. You can't just swap out an iconic action hero like Mad Max for another character, and the execution looked very similar to previous installments, which isn't provoking more to flock. In other words, to state the obvious, both films would have done better if John Wick was in the John Wick film and Mad Max was in the Mad Max film. Now, some may argue, including Deadline, that you can't blame Hollywood for trying. Since Me Too, they have certainly put a lot of effort into the girl boss, and I would absolutely agree. You have to be committed to fail this much. And this is the very definition of a word that Hollywood's been...
Oh, she's such an SJW. The picture of Rachel Zegler's Snow White. I gotta find it.
You have to be committed to fail this much. And this is the very definition...
I want to talk to the manager. Someone else needs to run this kingdom. Someone who's fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Definition of a word that Hollywood's been hearing a lot of lately: fatigue. Two, again, well-received films underperforming due to the sins of the feminist, male and female. More specifically, the intersectional feminist, a construct created in the academic halls of America where parents pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to send their children to learn to hate them. And it's this type of activism that has seeped into Hollywood and poisoned the well of imagination. Put simply, you do more damage to any cause you think or pretend to believe in than any imaginary chud could possibly conceive. But feel free to file this in the ever-growing folder of the chuds were right by finally coming to terms with the truth. Now, it goes without saying the female-led action film goes way back. The first I remember seeing are Alien and Foxy Brown.
I remember when I was doing Hunger Games, nobody had ever put a woman in the lead of an action movie.
That's too easy.
I still can't believe she said that. In 2020, this perfectly exemplifies exactly my point. They make every single one of these female-led movies as if it's the first time it's ever been done. Every single one of them. They're just like, I know that you like John Wick. I know you think it's cool, but hear me out. What if it was an assassin? Listen to this. Listen. What if it was an assassin, but a woman? A woman! Assassin! Have you ever seen anything like it? It's every single time. That's the energy. Every single time they put forward. Listen. It's the apocalypse. Raider gangs everywhere. You've heard of Mad Max. Max Rockatansky. But hear me out. Same exact thing. It's Mad Max, but. It's a woman. It's a woman. Have you ever heard of anything like this? It's just every... Atlas with, who was it? J-Lo and Atlas? But what's so funny about it is they literally think this way. They literally think... Jennifer Lawrence thought she was the first female action star ever. Total illiterate. She's a complete illiterate of her own industry. Her own industry, which is cinema and films. The arrogance. It's incredible.
Boy, you bitch. I want you to suffer.
Now, Deadline does cite some relatively recent examples from what they call the pre-streaming era, but we will call the pre-Me Too era. Kill Bill Volume 1, which grossed $22.2 million in 2003. Angelina Jolie's Wanted, which grossed $50.9 million. I think you meant Salt, because James McAvoy's Wesley Gibson's the main character of that movie. And Scarlett Johansson's Lucy, $43.8 million from 2014. And of course, they forgot to mention Atomic Blonde. And hell, since we're going back 20 years, let's go back 30 and mention The Long Kiss Goodnight, because that one's a banger. But obviously,
that is a great movie. That is a great movie, The Long Kiss Goodnight, with oh my god, I'm blanking on her name. All of it. Gina Davis, Long Kiss Goodnight, so good.
Is not exclusive to the female-led action film. While it's been particularly bad in genre, it's spread to just about everything, which is strange.
Weird.
Because prior to the current era, nobody had a single problem with a kick-ass female character, from Run Lola Run to The Fifth Element to science fiction, fantasy novels, to anime, to animation, to comic books, to TV, to film. I wonder what changed. You know, I think I just mentioned it, but I can't quite inappropriately put my finger on it.
Yeah, I remember I loved Buffy the Vampire Slayer when I was a kid. The movie. I never got into the show, but the movie I loved, and we weren't allowed to watch it because of its treatment of women. But I loved it.
Hashtag Me Too. Please tell me you've heard of that.
Ah yes, who could forget Me Too, a power grab that was disguised as a movement, that and a president that broke Hollywood's feeble minds. But if you really want to pinpoint when the girl boss era started, well, it was the less than lethal shot heard round the world, Ghostbusters 2016. No, it didn't generate a lot of ticket sales and did irrevocable harm.
That really is the one, isn't it? Isn't that the one that kind of marks the beginning of the end. That was the one where they said, we are going to cram this down your throat. We are going to cram this down your throat, and you're going to like it. And the more you hate it, the more we're just going to double down on it. And it just started an entire decade of this crap. And it's finally running out of gas.
To the Ghostbusters franchise, but it did innovate quite a few things, including but not limited to opening the floodgates on let's slap some teats on a male franchise and call it progress, and developing a truly unique marketing strategy, blaming the fans for your failures. Ghostbusters 2016 made it okay for Hollywood to call the paying customer or potential paying customer a sexist, a misogynist, a bigot, or a homophobe, and sometimes all of them at once. And that worked so well, damn near every franchise or potential franchise decided to follow suit. Which ones? Well, how much time you got? Off the top of my head, in no particular order, Disney Star Wars served up Rey, a female version of Luke Skywalker who stole the family name and inadvertently wiped out the family line, and the only memorable character trait is she's a Mary Sue girl boss. But that wasn't enough because Disney had to do it with legacy characters as well by demoting Princess Leia to General Leia in the name of female empowerment and turning her into a girl boss. Then the whole damn thing devolved into a galaxy of girl bosses, which I guess is appropriate considering this IP is run by the most incompetent girl boss of all. Not to be outdone, then there's Kurtzman Trek, who turned the Federation into an incompetent matriarchy, and they decided to kick things off with Michael Burnham, or Space Jesus, who's so awesome she can commit mutiny, get her captain killed, and then be promoted to captain and get her own ship. And the only memorable character trait, she's a nauseating girl boss. Doctor Who took the well-established male doctor and regenerated him into the first female doctor played by Jodie Whittaker, who was just an annoying girl boss. But to be fair, she was more masculine than Ncuti Gatwa. The Rings of Power took the epitome of grace and beauty, Galadriel, and devolved her
you like that one, Redoubt?
into Galadriel, a snarling orc-slaying girl boss. Not to be outdone, Warner Brothers decided to retain the rights to Lord of the Rings by making the War of the Rohirrim the War of the Rohirrim, by taking an unnamed female character from Tolkien's appendices of Return of the King and making her, you guessed it, a girl boss. I think it's prudent to point out that in the previously mentioned intellectual properties, not a single fan would have had a problem with a female lead. But in Hollywood's rush to redress the necessary balance, whatever the fuck that means, instead of capturing a female audience, you ended up losing a male and female audience in droves.
But wait! There's more!
Then there was the stories that certainly didn't lack any female representation, but that wasn't enough for Hollywood. There's The Witcher, starring Henry Cavill, who was constantly nagged by girl bosses so much he left. And The Wheel of Time, that girl boss so hard it got canceled. And that probably had a lot to do with Amazon Studios firing their girl boss. Game of Thrones took a character everyone liked, Arya, and turned her into a Mary Sue girl boss. Westworld had a brilliant first season, then it deteriorated into an intersectional feminist fever dream filled with girl bosses. And one of the worst examples might be Terminator Dark Fate, which turned the Terminator into a girl boss, the old Terminator into a rape apologist, and Sarah Connor, the legendary female action star, into an antinatalist. Kids' movies and shows weren't safe. Toy Story 4, Bo Peep was a girl boss. Incredibles 2, Elastigirl was a girl boss. Then, of course, there's the MCU, a designation I'm willing to drop anytime, but apparently Disney Marvel isn't. And we've certainly gone over it enough on this channel, but the one thing I want to point out that Disney Marvel does particularly well recently is put a girl boss in absolutely everything. Because when they have a male protagonist, it seems like it's almost an edict that he be surrounded by girl bosses. For example, Black Panther, Ant-Man Comimania, Hawkeye, and Shang-Chi. But again, to be fair, I think it would be prudent to point out that all the women were more masculine than Simu Liu. And despite serving up their second flop of the year where they turned Temu Black Widow into the girl boss of the retarded Avengers, it seems like they haven't learned their lesson and they aren't quite done yet with the MCU. Next up is Ironheart. And in their next film, aside from the female Silver Surfer, it looks like they're going to take the First Lady of Marvel and turn her into Mary Sue Storm, reducing a brilliant character from the comics into the next in line of the Disney Marvel girl bosses that goes on and on and on and on.
It's time to stop, okay? No more!
And it appears Hollywood will go on as well, so we'll continue to get gender-swapped characters, gender-swapped historical characters, derivative female characters in their 50s and 60s starring in action films, osteoporosis be damned, and all of them would be saddled with questionable morals, modernity, and the message. And let's not forget the girl boss female villain, who is some variation of misunderstood or being oppressed by the patriarchy, and they generally end up either defeating themselves or being forgiven. And what do these things all have in common? The staple of modern Hollywood, horrific writing. Prime example with the female protagonist would be the hero's journey, which generally subverts and, according to feminist writers, improves Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And here's a neat little diagram: the call to adventure, the threshold, beginning of transformation, revelation, abyss, death and rebirth, atonement, and the return. In the hero's journey, the woman starts out pretty awesome in the first place, and after she fights off the oppressive patriarchy, she's acknowledged for her greatness. And this entire girl boss era can be summed up best by this unintentional meme about Charlie's Angels. And when you get all of this, it shouldn't surprise you at all.
That meme is unbelievable. Oh, that is incredible. This is so if you're listening, this is a side-by-side comparison. I forget the publication it's from is not shown in the shot, but I remember this. I remember it was like, I don't know if it was Variety or another one. Literally the same publication using the same picture, two different articles removed in time, but they were put side by side. On the left, straight white males, this movie is not for you, and it's about Charlie's Angels. And then on the right-hand side, a few months later, same picture, same publication. The headline is, "Why are straight white males refusing to see this movie?" It's unbelievable. You can't win. You cannot win with the loons, the wackos.
Meme about Charlie's Angels. And when you get all of this, it shouldn't surprise you at all that when occasionally we get a good female-led action film, it flops. Oh, and that reminds me, because Tinseltown feels so strongly about their strong female leads, we're going to get a lot more of the bait and switch. Which brings us to our prime example, Mad Max Fury Road, which was actually a Furiosa movie, which is why they spun off a Furiosa prequel that flopped, just like Ballerina. And I think it's important to point out that both of those films required the male titular character's name on their titles. So what's the explanation for the underperformance? Is it girl boss fatigue, modernity fatigue, the message fatigue?
Yeah, so Wrangler, the restream bot, that's from Twitch. That's from Twitch, because I'm also live streaming on Twitch. I don't know how to moderate my chat on Twitch. I haven't figured it out, or else I would ban that user. But I can't. I'll need to do some research. It's not a high priority right now. Just don't click any links on the Twitch stream.
Fatigue, woke Hollywood fatigue, Hollywood fatigue. The answer is yes. Ultimately, they fell victim to their predecessors who were unable to write their female characters like humans, much less women. It's a trope, it's absurd, and the female action star has become a parody of itself. And the girl boss era has been going on for almost 10 years. And why do people reject the Hollywood girl boss? Well, because it comes off as it is, an inferiority complex. It's not about uplifting women, it's about getting revenge. And no one has done more damage to the genre female lead than Hollywood, a place where trends go to die, and this one is long overdue. But it's no surprise coming from a modern entertainment industry that has taken stuff that was made for men, started making it for women, when no one can tell the difference between the two anymore.
I'm gonna be a dad. Nerderotic.com.
If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long.
All right, hat tip to Nerdrotic, another excellent video. Don't let it discourage you, Wrangler. The point is, continue to write well-drawn characters with deep complexity that are true to their personality, and they will find their audience. The mistake that Hollywood is making is they're confusing an archetype and a trend and an ideology for a character and a story. And that's the main issue. You know, the fundamental underlying element of the human condition is frailty. Frailty. We are frail creatures. And that's, you know, we're mortal. We are emotional. We feel pain. Those are the truths of our existence. Frailty is at the core of every single good character's struggle, male, female, or unspecified. Every character must face their own frailty as a being. Even Superman. Even Superman must face his frailty. That's the point. That's the source of tension and drama and suspense in any story, period. Period. That's why having perfect or flawless characters isn't interesting. Because A, it's not real in the sense that it doesn't say anything that's true about the human condition, and B, we don't relate to that. Even in a superhero story, it's very important to make the character relatable in some way. That's why for a superhero story to be effective, they need to have some kind of curse or some kind of price that they pay for who they are. Because otherwise, they would not be relatable to us as ordinary mere mortals. So what I'm getting at is the reason girl bosses suck is that very simple, eloquent phrase that Critical Drinker dropped, which was a flawless feminist power fantasy. In other words, the woman as human without frailty. The woman as human without flaw. The woman as human without failings, fears, or vulnerabilities. That's preposterous. And more importantly, it's boring. So as long as you are writing a character that has depth, complexity, and above all else, frailty, the frailties of the human condition, you've got nothing to worry about. So keep writing, my friend. That's the point of calling this shit out. The point of calling this shit out is to call out what's not working. And that's what's not working, is the Mary Sue character. If you're writing good characters, you will find the audience. I don't believe you can tell good story. You couldn't tell other than certain very specific types of stories, such as, you know, a World War II story. I don't think there's a lot of stories you can tell where it's an all-male cast and it's going to be as interesting as it could be. I think that variety is the spice of life. And I personally, as a creative, I like finding unique, different, and interesting characters. I suppose it's why I have sympathies with James Gunn's storytelling style. He likes having a variety of characters. That might be the right direction for Superman. It might not be. Time will tell. But the point is, I think that there has to be variety in storytelling, and women are a part of that variety. They have to be. They're part of the species. They're part of humanity. But just write them as human. That's all. Just make them human. George R. Martin is very good at writing female characters. Very good. And he was asked on a talk show. I think it was like The Tonight Show or something. And he was asked, how do you get at writing female characters? And I loved his answer. His answer is like, well, I just look at women as pretty much as having goals and desires and things that they want, like men. I just think of them the same way I think of male characters. They have things they want, things they fear, injustices they must face, just like the male characters. They have all these things, and I write about those things. And that's why characters like Cersei and Catelyn Stark and Arya are really interesting characters in his writing, and will continue to be. Daenerys Targaryen, was up until the end of the show, was a really good character. All right, well, let's close it out with a Grizzy video. What do you say? So the shills are out there. The long knives are out. If you're not happy with the new Harry Potter show's casting, well, there are some shills that have some choice words for you. So let's pull up Mr. Grizzy, who will be our one for the road.
Bullying any person simply because of the color of their skin, you're a loser.
Yeah.
Bullying a child.
Child, yeah.
I think she's 8.
What are you talking about? No, literally, I've heard nothing about the Hermione casting. Nobody's upset about that.
Dude, come on, how fucking stupid are you? How after all this time do you realize, like, hey, maybe, bullying a child is, like, not a smart thing to do, you know?
Well, that's a very entertaining story, but unfortunately, real detectives have to worry about that little thing called evidence.
Now, before we get into the video, I just want to start off by saying that I have absolutely no idea what the fuck these two are talking about. Nobody is bullying the 11-year-old child actress playing Hermione in the upcoming Harry Potter series.
Grow up. Get some real problems. And leave this poor young child alone.
Leave the children alone.
Leave the children alone.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you are fake.
You're the leave the kids alone crowd, right? Right? Unless we slap a trans flag on it. Then we're going to change our tune, aren't we?
And these two provide absolutely zero evidence to any of the claims they're about to make in this video. No tweets, no social media posts, no video clips, nothing. We are all just supposed to take their word and trust them that this is happening.
What is wrong with these grown-ass adults who are upset that she's, like... What? What's your real problem here?
So what exactly is she so triggered about? Well, from what I can gather, she's upset that some people on social media simply don't like the casting.
If you care.
I care.
If you care that Hermione
I care.
was cast as somebody who may not be white 100%, you are a loser.
Okay.
You're a loser.
Now, obviously, as you can see here, Roxy is very triggered over people online calling the Hermione casting a race swap. And yes, people are calling it a race swap on social media. They're calling it woke, and they clearly do not like the casting. And you can call those people losers.
Leave Britney alone.
By them.
Exactly. Exactly, Wrangler. Same energy.
That's fine, I guess, but this is their opinion, and they are stating their opinion on social media, which is totally fine. They are not bullying this actress by saying these things, Roxy.
And in this new show, Hermione is, we don't
you're not wrong, Fu Man. You're not wrong.
Even know. We don't even know what race she is, which is why race is so stupid in the first place, because people online are making fun of her for being too white, too black, too Hispanic, too Asian. We don't even know her race.
Okay, who is making fun of this actress on a personal level? You need to show the receipts before making a ridiculous claim like this. Now, I think most people look at this casting and either A, don't care, or B, say, yeah, it's not the best casting in the world, not my preference, but let's just say, we know that it could have been a hell of a lot worse, right?
Definitely, definitely, definitely.
And this has gotten nowhere near the backlash that the Snape casting has gotten, so again, what the hell are you even talking about?
Don't be douchebags to them. They're children. Be nice.
Because she's slightly brown, now everybody just thinks they can guess what she is and who she is. Are you the biggest loser on the planet that this is how you're spending your time?
Oh my God. Asmongold is so right. It's every time. The problem in our society is white liberal Karens, tone policing and purity testing everyone.
And I just want to take a second real quick and say that if this really were happening, if people really were bullying an 11-year-old girl, I think it'd be more than just these two talking about it. Just throwing that out there.
I want to shake the internet so hard. Why is this your problem? Leave her alone.
Leave her alone.
And let
Oh,
this
there it
little
is.
tan girl who...
There it is. Oh, Wrangler, you called it. Leave Brittany alone. Leave her alone. They're wackos, man. These people are unhinged. They're out of their minds. Folks, it's a disease. Chivalry by proxy, the disease from which she suffers. It's a debilitating disease. It's congenital. It's incurable. The prognosis is grim, and they suffer. They suffer, folks. They suffer.
Don't even know. Just do a great job because she out-auditioned 10,000 girls.
She is pissed.
10,000 girls auditioned for this, and she was the best.
That was such a good edit. Bill Clinton in South Park. She is pissed. It's so funny because it's like how every man perceives female anger. It's the reasons don't matter. The reasons that they're angry just doesn't matter at all. Whether or not they're right or wrong, justified or not, totally irrelevant, don't care. It's just all you need to know is that the storm has arrived and you need to seek shelter and survive. That's it. That's nothing else matters. It's so funny. She is pissed.
Just a bit of advice for next time, sweetheart. Next time you accuse a fandom of bullying a child, please bring the receipts. Then we can have a conversation. Then we can have a dialogue. But obviously, you're not going to do that, most likely
eyes.
because they don't.
Look at the eyes, the crazy eyes.
Exist. So in the meantime, we're just going to continue to laugh at and make fun of you.
What is your problem?
Triggered.
All right, real quick before we move on, do me a favor because these people do watch these videos. Do me a favor and show them how much we enjoy laughing at them for being triggered by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel.
I'd appreciate it. I really would.
So after Roxy had her little tantrum, they then move on to discuss their support of race swaps in Hollywood, DEI, and of course, Black Snape.
Well, sometimes I think it does matter. Sometimes I think it's a really good thing to do it, to show that it doesn't matter that they're not white and that it could still be as effective and that you can give a black person, an Asian person some actual main.
So the white son of T'Challa in the Marvel comic books, you like that then? You're okay with that? That you think that's good because it shows how it doesn't matter, right? Do I have that right, Chill?
In supporting roles or leading roles.
And nobody has a problem with giving them leading roles. What people have a problem with is changing established characters because woke Hollywood needs to check off boxes. That's what people have a problem with.
I think what people want is for people to reflect the casting of the movies that they grew up on instead. So when they try to use like the book as a reference, I feel like a lot of people are like actually really researching to be like, where can they, so I could have it in my defense that Snape shouldn't be a black guy. Let me just try to, because I'm like, I'm sure they don't fucking remember this off the top of their head as an impression that was made to them.
Yes,
majority.
on page 47 of book 4, where whatever, I know what you mean.
They don't. They're just looking for something.
So you're saying what? That people who don't like the Snape casting aren't actually fans of the books. They're just keyboard warriors who are doing research into the books to find something to be offended by. Kind of like how your co-host is just looking for something to be offended by with regards to the Hermione casting, only she's not even doing the research.
Anger and rage is an easy thing to latch onto. And Yeah, it's really not a big deal. And here's the truth too. If it adds additional subtext, like what Gabriel was talking about, like, good, it's more interesting to me. To me, I'm like, it's a more interesting show then. I think the conversation about like the subtext and race stuff can be an interesting conversation to be had.
Okay, so it doesn't matter, but also it's a great thing to do because it shows how much it doesn't matter. And also it's great because it doesn't matter, and it also will add additional subtext that would not otherwise be there, which will be good. These wackos can't hold one consistent, coherent idea in their heads for 5 minutes.
And there you go. There you have it. If the Harry Potter show ends up being about race and racism and identity politics and the conversations we as a society need to have, they are all for it.
So do I think that it kind of makes sense for her to be ethnically ambiguous and being called a mudblood and wondering and having people question her ability to do magic while also questioning her ability to fit in a school that is predominantly white? I think that's interesting.
I say,
so it does matter. Then you're saying it matters. You are literally so she's sitting here saying, how can these racist people, how can they make a judgment? Oh, because she's slightly brown, you know what race she is? She then goes on to say, well, because she has mixed ethnicity. Well, how do you know she has mixed ethnicity? You just said, how can they know what race she is? You're saying you know what race. That's unbelievable. Wokeness has no principles. They have no actual tenets of a belief system. They just want things. They just see shiny objects ideologically and politically, and they are attracted to those shiny objects. And the minute something else is shiny, they will drop the first shiny object and pick up the next one. It literally, if you believe in these ideas, which are completely incoherent and inconsistent with one another, it will make you a dumb person. It will make you a dumber person. It just will. It will deaden your ability to think and use things like logic and reason.
Fucking lean into it. Don't be chicken shit, and don't be scared about some camp of people being upset, you know?
Wow, so don't listen to the fans and don't give the fans what they want. That's your advice, huh? Because that worked out so well for The Last of Us Season 2, didn't it?
If the race is a part of the story, I think it's better.
My God, what's this?
So you're saying it matters. You are saying it absolutely matters. And you are saying that race is an issue in the story. Wow.
Guy gonna say next that HBO's Harry Potter series needs to take a page out of Doctor Who's playbook and lean into the racial aspect of their characters?
John and I really enjoy, and this is where a lot of people will probably not agree with us, we enjoy Ncuti Gatwa as the new Doctor in Doctor Who, first black Doctor. And whenever...
They're such fucking NPCs. They're such fucking human robots. They're just bots. It doesn't matter what the content contains so long as they can attach their political garbage to it. Their political garbage dictates every single thing. It is black character I like. Is black character patch dictates that I like said character. It's so pathetic. Crowbar the Skull is in the chat. Ahoy, Crowbar. The actress they picked to play Hermione is racially ambiguous, and she was picked for that reason, and it's okay to call it out. In fact, it should be called out. Well, what I'm calling out is how this crazy wacko babe first says that the people saying that she's of mixed race and she's racially ambiguous they have no ability to say that because they're crazy, because they're just making a judgment. Because she looks a little bit brown, now you suddenly know her race. She then in the same session goes on to say, and because she's ethically ambiguous, I think it will bring an interesting racial dynamic to the show, and that will be good. It's like you literally just said that it's racist to think that you know her race, and then you said, but she is of mixed race, and that's good. They're such wackos.
They decide to actually do an episode that leans into the fact that he's black, I think it works so much better.
Jesus Christ. All right, that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out some of the other Harry...
I'm so ready for our culture to be done entertaining these wackos. I'm ready for us to just start ignoring them. You know, we're laughing at them, which is the first stage of healing. And they're becoming less and less relevant all the time. And I, for one, look forward to that. I truly do. So there you go. Hat tip, Mr. Grizzy. What an absolute legend. Great YouTube channel. Just so good. Well, that's our show for today. Happy Father's Day, everyone. They're wackos, man. Those shills. They're funny though. I appreciate the entertainment they bring me. Well, thanks for hanging out on a Sunday. I always appreciate it. I am your host, Captain Garrett of the Swords and Starships channel. And until next time, I will see you out there.